Come then, my love, my lovely one, come, my dove, hiding in the clefts of the rock. For your face is beautiful, and your voice is lovely. Again, this is Thomas the Hermit, and I'm sharing with you in the Bible, in the Song of Songs, love words from Christ to his church. I'm going to show you what my lover did for me today. He brought me to a second beautiful place. First, he brought me to the washing pond. Now he's brought me to a cave. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's go see. In Mother Neff State Park, which the Lord has led me to, there's this big cave. It's remarkable. Look at this thing. I wonder if people ever lived under it. I bet they did. Here we go. We're gonna find ourselves here. Fall in love. Fall in love. Fall in love with Jesus. Fall in love. Fall in love. Fall in love with Jesus. Anthony was just a man who came to know the Lord. He wanted to offer his life to Jesus. And he found a cave where he lived his life. He lived there praising the Lord day and night. Fall in love. Fall in love. Fall in love with Jesus. Fall in love. Fall in love. Fall in love with Jesus. So, Thomas the Hermit, and I want to share with you about St. Anthony and what he did for us. He lived a living martyrdom. He literally offered himself up for all of us in the way, not the exact way that Jesus did, but in sharing with the sacrifice of Jesus. It says in the scriptures that we will make up for the lack of suffering that is needed. And St. Anthony made up for a lot of the lack of suffering. He spent his entire life in a cave in Egypt, in the desert, praying, eating some bread once a day, and very little water, very little sleep, isolated by himself for long periods of time. And he lived to be a very old man. He was the father of monks, of monasteries. And he inspired many, many other people to offer up their lives in prayer. And he lived in a cave. And here we are in a cave. And I know we think of caves in different ways, but this is one of those caves that doesn't go deep into the ground, but it's definitely a shelter. I'm sure at some point people would live here protected as long as there wasn't too wet or whatever the case may be. And it reminds me of St. Anthony. But suffering and sacrifice and the church, I didn't understand those things. We all hear about sacrifice and suffering for others. Now, the best way to understand that is to ask yourself, what mother who loves her children will not have to suffer for them? In the same way that Mary, Mother of God's heart was pierced because her baby boy was hung and crucified upon a cross. And we know that Mary's heart was pierced through because she was so close to Jesus, her son. And we know that that was prophesied to Mary by Simeon way before. He said, "A sword shall pierce your heart." And a sword indeed pierced Mary's heart. God allowed that. God ordained it and God wanted it. Mary had to share in the sufferings of Christ. We also will share in his sufferings. Those sufferings make up for the lack, and we are the body of Christ. We are not separate from him, and we are not separate from sharing in his sufferings. Now here's something I want you to think about this Lent. No good happens in this world. You've heard the saying, no good deed goes unpunished. It's true. Try to do something good. There will be people making fun of you for doing